Welcome to episode 3 of Stick to Sports. I'm Ben Diamond.
And I'm Brian Burrows. Today is all about March Madness.
Roll it. The number 1 seeds were announced, and to no one's surprise, UConn and Houston are at the top of the East and South regions. Both teams had a lot of success this season, with UConn taking the Big East championship. However, that was not the case for Houston, as they were defeated by Iowa State in the Big 12 championship. Both teams have high expectations heading into the madness. Which team will have more success than the other by the end of the tournament?
Look, UConn is my favorite this year. It is just so hard to pick against them. They have such a well-balanced team. They do great things on all facets of the game. The thing is, no one's repeated since Florida in 06, 07. So they're doing something that hasn't been done in a long, long time. As far as Houston goes, best defense in the country, but they scared me with that Iowa State loss. They showed that they were fallible. I really thought that they were going to go right all the way to the end, just as UConn may, in my predictions at least. But this kind of showed that their teams can beat them if they play good defense. If they're going to need Shed and Cryer to be consistently above average the entire time, and if they can do that, they'll go far.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. I mean, UConn are far and away the favorites because they were the only number 1 seed to win their conference championship. And, that could be important, but also not, because that might make them have a little bit of a target on their back, because the other teams have felt the sting of defeat in a playoff scenario. So we'll see if UConn starts to get a little complacent in this playoff, and whether or not that will hurt them. But Houston can be really scary. If they bounce back from that Iowa State loss, it remains to be seen what these teams can do.
The Purdue Boilermakers and the UNC Tar Heels are on top of the West and Midwest regions, respectively. The Boilermakers are coming off an OT loss to Ohio State in the Big Ten semis, while the Tar Heels are coming off a loss to NC State in the ACC final. Both schools get the winners of the first 4 matchups, and both schools have high hopes. Ben, do you see either of these teams cutting down the nets this year?
I mean, I feel like UNC has more of a chance than Purdue. I feel like Purdue always is underwhelming when it comes to playing in March, and that even started early this year. Of course, them losing in the Big Ten semifinals before even reaching the big tournament. And I mean, the duo between RJ Davis and Armando Bacot I feel like has a higher ceiling for success this late in the season than a team led by Zach Edey, that is the Purdue Boilermakers. So right now, both these teams, they have that ceiling, but I think UNC is a little bit higher.
No, I completely agree with everything you just said. I like UNC. You said Davis and Bacot, extremely good duo. The thing is, if Davis struggles, the offense tends to struggle and take a step back. They're going to need players like Harrison Ingram and Cormac Ryan to transfers to step up. As far as Purdue goes, I don't like him in the tourney. They've shown it the last couple of years that they're just not the team. They lost to a 16 seed and a 15 seed in the last 2 years. They're getting a winner of the first 4 for the second year in a row, which last year was part of the reason they lost. They do have 4 10-per-game scorers, including Zach Edey, but if someone can shut down Zach Edey, they're probably going to lose. So I really just don't like the Boilermakers. They're a team that do really well in the regular season, but you said it. They lost in the Big Ten. They're going to probably lose again early in this tournament.
The South Carolina Gamecocks finished the regular season 26-7, losing in the SEC quarterfinals to Auburn. Now, as a 6th seed set to face the 11-seeded Oregon Ducks, South Carolina looks to build on a season where they have exceeded expectations. Texas Tech, who is also a 6th seed, lost to Houston in the Big 12 semifinals. They are lined up to face the ACC champions, 11-seeded NC State. Can either of these teams make a deep run in the tournament?
Honestly, I'm not a big fan of either squad. I like South Carolina to beat Oregon in the first round. I think Oregon's good, but they're just not the team I think is South Carolina. But they most likely run into Creighton in the second round, too. I think Creighton is one of these teams this year that's going to go real, real far. As far as Texas Tech, I think they also got a tough draw with NC State. They're going to get a really hot team at the wrong time. Though NC State magic may have run out, which I think can help benefit Texas Tech. They're coming on a 5-game win streak at a Cinderella story in their own conference tournament. The thing is, even if they do win, it's another tough draw with Kentucky most likely in the second round. I think it's going to hurt both of their chances. Even if they can win in the first round, it's going to be hard to do in the second round.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting between both these teams. I mean, South Carolina has a lot of depth. They have 10, almost 11 guys. One guy has 9.9 minutes per game, so almost 11 guys with double-digit minutes. So they have a lot of guys playing meaningful minutes throughout the entire season, and we'll see if that remains the same in the tournament, because that depth could be really important in keeping their big guys really well rested late in the game during crunch time when they're going to be needed most, and maybe that can help them win a few games as the other team gets a little tired.
The Auburn Tigers ended up on the 4 line after a 27-7 season and winning the SEC tournament. They boast one of the best defenses in the country and are led by 16 per game scorer Johnny Broome. The Tigers are 7-4 under head coach Bruce Pearl in the NCAA tournament games and get number 13 Yale in the first round. The 3-seeded Kentucky Wildcats are led by a core of 5 10 per game scorers and scored just shy of 90 as a team. They lost to Texas in the SEC quarterfinals, but went 23-9 this season and were 5-2 versus top 25 opponents. The Wildcats get the Horizon League winners, 14-seeded Oakland, in the first round. Ben, do you see either of these squads as true contenders?
You know, it's going to be really interesting. I think Kentucky might be a true contender. It'll be interesting to see how far their offensive might can take them, because their offense has been, really, really solid, one of the best in the country. But if they have any off night, if their offense is shut down by any defense, their run will be over. So they could be a contender, but it really all depends on their consistency. As for Auburn, another depth team that can use a lot of different players, and that, as well as I said with South Carolina, can be really useful, especially in a tournament where you're playing a lot of games really close together, keeping your big guys fresh as games go along, as you continue to move through the tournament. But I mean, you never know what's going to happen. So either of these teams can be taken down. It just depends on any style of play from either of these teams.
Yeah, I really like the Tigers. That are excellent on both sides of the ball. As you mentioned, they're pretty deep. They're going to give opponents fits on the defense, but they are in the hardest region. I think the East this year is the hardest region of all 4. Kentucky is in the easier South, but I think which is going to see a few upsets, which could benefit Kentucky going deep into this tournament. But they're going to need defense to win these games.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue talking about March Madness here on WTOP 10.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Shine on that boy.
Look at the bling. Do we got a diamond tester on?
Yeah, that's getting bad. Yep.
10
out of 10 recommend on Yelp. We scored, we're going to the playoffs.
I can't believe I missed that. Every time I'm buzzed, I spend too much time on my phone.
What? I should take your phone away.
No. I'll call for a ride.
Hey, why does my face look like that?
I'm playing with these new face filters.
Okay, you know what? Yep, that's mine.
I'm gonna need that back.
No.
Kevin.
Welcome back to Stick to Sports. A game I think people should pay some attention to during the round of 64 is 7-seeded Washington State against 10-seeded Drake. As many games between two closely seeded teams are, this one is a toss-up with both teams having the talent to beat the other. However, I believe that Washington State has the upper hand due to its stronger schedule in the Pac-12 and more statement victories. Who do you think takes this one, Brian?
Honestly, I'm going against you here. Give me the Drake Bulldogs. Tucker DeVries leads the team. 20 per game score, is so good in all facets of the game. I just really think he could single-handedly lead this team through the first round. They were 2-1 versus Indiana State, which I think is a team that should have made the tourney, because I know Bulldogs don't have a lot of statement wins, as you mentioned, that Washington State has, but I think that those Indiana State wins really tell a good story. Wazoo has a good defense, but Drake has a good offense. Feels like the offense is going to prevail in this one.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, have the same thing. Drake has a high-powered offense. They're not, going to go away lightly, even though they're the 10 seed in this one. But I mean, these teams are really close. But then again, I really do think that the strength of schedule is going to play a factor. Even though it's March and you never know what's going to happen, I feel like it'll play a factor. I mean, Washington State lost to Colorado, who could make it in. Oregon and Arizona, they've beaten. So they have a lot of those statement wins, and I think they can take this one.
My first game to watch features the Duke Blue Devils and the Vermont Catamounts in a 4-13 game on Friday night. The Blue Devils have lost back-to-back games, including to NC State in the ACC quarterfinal. The Catamounts come in winners of the America East Conference and 19 of their last 20 games. Vermont has a top 10 defense in the country, but have yet to take on an AP top 25 team this season. Vermont is making their third straight appearance in the tournament, though. Ben, who do you like in this matchup?
I mean, Duke has a lot of experience when it comes to playing in the NCAA tournament. I mean, it seems like it's a yearly thing, but a lot of that recently has come with Coach K. And since he's retired, we've kind of seen a little bit downcline. Not enough where they're completely out of everything, but to the point where, you kind of have to question a little bit, are they still going to be that dominant force when it comes to facing other really good teams? So I think there is a chance that Vermont could take this one and be one of those crazy upsets, but I also think that Duke probably does come away with this one.
I'm really have confused on this one. I don't know if it's Duke or Vermont. I do like Vermont, but I think I'm going to say Vermont on this one.
My next game is between an 8 seed and a 9 seed, as 8 seed Mississippi State takes on 9 seed Michigan State to open up the tournament on Thursday afternoon. Michigan State has not lived up to the high expectations set on them from their past success. However, head coach Tom Izzo's March experience can help push the team forward. What are your expectations for this game, Brian?
This game is going to be very, very tight. These two teams are very evenly matched. Mississippi State has some pretty big wins on their resume. Beat Tennessee twice, a 2 seed this year, but they did lose 2 of 3 to Auburn. They were 3-6 versus top 25 teams, though, so it just kind of shows those better teams kind of hard to beat for them. Michigan State, though, really good defensive big men, not very good shooting the 3. They were 2-7 versus top 25 teams. So again, just very even resumes, very close teams. This game is going to be very tight. I really am not sure who's going to win it.
Absolutely. I mean, all 8-9 games are toss-ups, and I mean, this one right here is probably going to be the biggest one of them all when it comes to saying, oh yeah, this is a toss-up between 2 very even teams. But I mean, head coach Tom Izzo, he thrives in March. This is what kind of the culture he's created at Michigan State, and this is the time where his team and his schemes really shine.
My other game to watch is number 6 Clemson Tigers against the number 11 New Mexico Lobos. The Tigers come in 21-11 and lost in the second round of the ACC tournament by 20 to Boston College. They're led by PJ Hall and Syracuse transfer Joseph Girard. They start this season red hot 11-1, but finished 10-10 and losers of 3 of 4. The Lobos won the Mountain West Conference as the 6th seed and boast a 26-9 record. They scored just over 80 points per game and are +4 in the turnover margin. Ben, do you see a hot Lobos team or a streaky Tigers squad moving to the round of 32?
I absolutely think that we're going to see New Mexico come away with this victory. I mean, it's all about streaks during a long season, and right now, New Mexico is hitting its stride, and Clemson is tripping and falling over themselves and kind of sputtering into the tournament. So I'd have to think that New Mexico kind of has that edge. But then again, it's March, so you could turn around on a dime, and all of a sudden Clemson, beats New Mexico by 25, and we're saying, oh, this Clemson team is hot. So it's really a toss-up, but I think New Mexico.
I'm also with you on New Mexico there. Jalen House led them through the Mountain West Conference, 23 points per game in their conference games. They were 10-8 in a very competitive Mountain West, where the first seed went 14-4. I don't like Clemson. I think they're going to ride on Joseph Girard, so I really like New Mexico here.
We've talked about of the top teams. We've also talked about some dark horses. But what team do you think people should keep an eye on as the tournament begins this week?
Give me the McNeese State Cowboys. Led by head coach Will Wade, the former LSU head coach who got fired due to recruiting problems. They're led by Shahada Wells. who scores 17 per game, 4 assists. He's just really good, does everything for this team. They're one of 4 teams in the tournament this year with 30 wins. They ran through the Southland Conference at 17-1 record and ran through the conference tournament as well. Their top 5 scorers shoot 40% beyond the arc. Will Wade, is bringing that SEC-style offense to the Southland Conference, to McNeese State. Their biggest problem, though, they didn't play a team that's in the tournament this season. So this is the first real test season. They get Gonzaga in the first round. It's going to be real tough test for them. But if they can do it, I really see them as maybe even Elite 8 team this year.
I mean, that's an issue we've seen a lot with them not playing a lot of teams that are towards the top in the tournament right now. But I mean, as you said, Will Wade bringing that SEC style over to McNeese and really turning around the program from 500 to 30-3. Really impressive. And I think that experience that he brings makes the team a little more formidable. And as you said, could bring a little bit more problems to this tournament.
Ben, I give you my one team to watch, but who are you watching to make some noise throughout the tournament?
You know, I'm giving you San Diego State. And I know that they were in the Final Four last season, but I mean, once again, you know, they might not be as firepowered as they were last season. But then again, we say it all the time, it's March. Anything can happen. They can recapture that glory. As you see it right now, 74.6 points per game, only allowing 66.6 points per game, and still shooting pretty well from the field at 44%. That 3-point percentage, though, is going to be probably the most glaring issue we see with San Diego State. If they can fix that, or if they end up, shooting the lights out to start this tournament and really turn it around, that could be a huge sign that they can go on another run this season.
Yeah, you mentioned that excellent defense, but I think the biggest problem here is that they're in the hardest region, that eastern region. They're going to have to probably go through Auburn, UConn, Illinois, or Iowa State to get all the way through. I think they're in a really tough region with a streaky offense at times. Jaden Ledee as a freshman is going to be hard to rely on through a tournament. Those big lights can be hard sometimes for a freshman. The defense is going to have to carry them a lot versus other teams that play really good defense throughout this tournament, and I just don't fully see them as that team this year.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough. I think maybe a team that could go, I possibly think they can go to the finals, but it will remain to be seen until this tournament starts.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Ben will be joined by one of our producers, Alex Brooks, here on WTOP 10.
Welcome back to Major Discussions.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Hey there, I'm Al Roker, class of 76. Yes, way back in 76. Back when the earth was cooling. You're watching WTOP.
Welcome back to Stick to Sports. Joining me now is Alex Brooks, one of our producers. Alex, what do you have for me tonight?
Well, Ben, we have a lot to cover, so we'll keep it here with the college hoops as March Madness is getting ready to tip off later this week. With everyone getting ready to make their brackets, there are a lot of teams that could and will bust many brackets in this tournament. Ben, I raise you the question, what team are you the most confident in being a fast break upset?
I am absolutely the most confident in number 15 Long Beach State over number 2 Arizona in the round of 15. They fired head coach Dan Monson. He's still coaching, but they have him set to be fired when they're done playing. But he won their conference championship to make it to the NCAA tournament. And I just think it would be so perfect for this team to have one of the biggest upsets this year. And whether the coach still leaves or if he ends up staying because of all this, I think it'd just be really fun, a really fun storyline.
Man, you're giving me a lot of energy here, Ben. Well, my upset is going to be the number 15 St. Peter's Peacocks over Tennessee. As you look at their resume right there, they were the 2024 MAC tournament champions. Points per game were 65.3, rebounds per game were 35.6. You see all there. St. Peter's has beat Fairfield, but it seems like maybe history might repeat itself, and I think they can make a run for the Peacocks. Well, it may be March Madness, but we have breaking news in the last hour here on Stick to Sports as Blake Snell is headed to the San Francisco Giants on a 2-year, $62 million deal. Snell adds to a rotation in need of an ace with Logan Webb and Robbie Ray as other serviceable options. Ben, how big is this signing for the boys in the Bay Area?
I mean, this is absolutely a huge deal. I mean, it is a lot per year. It's still $31 million per year, but he has that opt-out. So he's really betting on himself, Snell, to have a consistent season and get that big contract he was looking for this offseason. But as for the Giants, absolutely huge. I mean, you mentioned Logan Webb. He was a runner-up to Snell this past season for the NL Cy Young. So now to pair the two up in the same rotation, I mean, the 1-2 punch is now one of the best in the National League, and maybe in all of baseball. And they also have a lot of young guys. They also added Jordan Hicks. And I mean, they also added Soler, Jung-Hoo Lee, Matt Chapman. What an offseason for this Giants team.
Yeah, what an offseason. They are one of the young, promising teams here in the National League and in all of baseball. I mean, Snell provides you, obviously, with Cy Young caliber talent. He's a proven guy. He has playoff experience. This this rotation wasn't really catching anyone's attention, but now that Snell is in here, they made that big splash, and it's gonna. I'm sure that it's gonna make dividends for them in the NL West. Let's move to the gridiron, as there were a lot of moves and headlines that made its way across the NFL world last week. Many quarterbacks and running backs found new homes during the start of the new year, and many teams will look very different come September. Ben, we are a week into free agency, so who is your 7-day champion of the free agency frenzy?
I mean, you mentioned running backs just a second ago, and I think the biggest one of the biggest ones, I should say, because you're about to get to another one, Derrick Henry going to the Baltimore Ravens. And I know that it's only one signing for the Ravens, but the running game has been an issue. They've had to rely so much on Lamar Jackson, and while adding Derrick Henry doesn't take that away necessarily from them using his legs, it really gives them that second option that teams are going to be very, very afraid of, and give maybe Lamar Jackson or Derrick Henry more room to run and more of those chunk plays to get first downs and more points.
Well, no surprise here. My 7-day winner is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles. They signed Saquon to a 3-year deal. That will be big for them behind that offensive line. They signed C.J. Gardner-Johnson, brought him back from the Lions, and you obviously see Huff, Devin White, got Pickett from the Steelers being in backup options. So, the Eagles, they're my 7-day winner for free agency.
We're going to take a quick break here on Stick to Sports, and thanks once again to Alex for the fast break. And when we come back, Brian, Alex, and I will head into extra innings. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Stick to Sports on WTOP 10.
Hey there, I'm Al Roker, class of 76. Yes, way back in 76. Back when the earth was cooling. You're watching WTOP.
The Kinda Late Show with Chloe and Anna. Like licorice, Twizzlers, absolutely nasty. The thought of turkey is just nauseating.
I think
can't.
you're wrong, is what I think.
You think I'm wrong a lot of times.
I do think you're wrong a lot.
When you look at the number of disasters in the U.S., chances are every area will deal with some kind of emergency in the next decade. And between school, sports, and social lives, chances are you won't be with your kids when it happens. Will they know what to do? Ready.gov/kids has the educational tools and information to make the conversation easy. When the time comes, chances are they'll feel prepared, not scared. So talk with your family today.
Put the keys down, Kevin.
But I'm gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
I guess I have really been looking for love in this dating app. Yep, I'm definitely gonna call a ride home.
Welcome back to Stick to Sports. Now let's get ready for everyone's favorite here on WTOP 10, Extra Innings. And before we get into our extra inning best bets, let's take a look at the extra inning standings. And guys, I mean, 1-4 last week. I know you guys, you guys are really happy right now, but I'm kind of in the dumps.
I'm not very happy. I'm in second.
I know.
I'm not happy.
Yeah.
I want to be first.
Leading again. Let's go.
6-4 for Brian, 5-5 for Ben, and then me in the dumpster with 3-7. Hopefully this week I can kind of get some of your guys' magic with your best bets, hopefully, so I can get out of the dumps. But we'll move over to our first matchup. It's going to be number 10 Colorado versus number 10 Boise State. And Ben, I'll have you start off.
You know, it's the play-in. It's the play-in. So it's gonna be very interesting. It's gonna be one of those toss-ups. Colorado and Boise State in the conference together. I'm gonna go with Colorado. They have them at -2.5, and you know they've played very well against teams that are already in the tournament right now. So I think that they are probably the best option to make it past Boise.
I agree. I think it's a really tough matchup for the Buffaloes, but I do like Colorado at 2.5.
Yeah, I'm going to go Colorado as well, so I'm going to kind of take a page out of your guys' book so I can get back up there in the standings. But, excuse me, we'll move over to number 10 Nevada versus number 7 Dayton. Brian, I'll have you start off for this one.
The Wolfpack, really good team this year. They're actually favored as a lower seed, a 1-point favorite, so it's really not by much, but I do like them over Dayton here. Give me the Wolfpack.
I'm going to go on the other side. I'm going to go with Dayton. I do like both teams here. Both teams, they have what I like. They have a little of that flair. But I got to say, Dayton and Nevada, it's so close. Toss up, I'm going with Dayton.
Ben, I am going to agree with you right there with Dayton. So we'll move over to our next matchup. It's going to be number 13 Samford versus number 4 Kansas. Ben, start us off here.
You know, I think this is going to be, it's probably going to be more favored towards Kansas, of course, as we see at the spread, -7.5. But I'm going to go with Samford. I'm going to take the Samford upset here in the first round. Kansas has not looked that good this season, or at least much worse than they have in the last few seasons. I'm taking Samford.
Yeah, Kansas favored in this matchup, but it very much is dependent on if Dickinson is healthy. If he's not, I think very easy Samford win, and I'm not sure about him, so I'm going to go right with you on Samford.
Well, I'm not going to pick my upset in this game. I'm going to take the Jayhawks. I feel like they will win this matchup. So we'll move over to number 13, Charleston versus number 4, Alabama. Brian, let's do this.
Give me Charleston. Alabama, 9.5-point favorites. Something about Charleston this year, they played really well over San Diego State last year. I think they were kind of that upset team that lost in the first round, but I do like them this year again versus Alabama. I think they got the win.
While I don't think Alabama's going to go much further than after maybe the round of 32, Alabama's offense is so high-powered. I got to take them to at least win one game until in this tournament.
Well, I'm going to take the Crimson Tide on this one. Alabama is going to win on that 9.5 spread. And we will move over to our last matchup here in the NCAA March Madness round of 64. Grand Canyon versus number 5 St. Mary's. St. Mary's opening up as 5.5 favorites. Ben, start us off.
Another really close one between these two teams that, I've learned a lot over these last few days about who these two teams are. And I'm going to take Grand Canyon in this one. Another upset.
I agree. I like Grand Canyon here. Super fast offense versus stifling defense, but I just think the offense is going to win it. I just don't like St. Mary's in this tournament setting.
I really didn't pick an upset here, so I'm going to actually go with number 12 Grand Canyon here, and we all have Grand Canyon to upset here.
And that's all the time we have on this episode of Stick to Sports. Be sure to tune in next week right here on WTOP 10.